It doesn't matter how sick and tired of being sick and tired you are. It doesn't matter how badly you want to get out of your addiction, whatever it is. It really doesn't matter how much you want to change. You want to change your circumstances, you want to change your behaviors. It's still fucking hard. That is the truth of life. It's hard work. And even I had fallen into the false belief that if I did X, Y, and Z, I would feel better. I would be on top of the world. Everything would go great. I am coming up, I am less than 30 days away from 14 years of sobriety. And the journey from who I was then to who I am now has been a roller coaster at best. Um, as I went through early sobriety, right, it got easier and easier and easier. The first 5 years were just pure hell, but at the 5 year mark, it started getting easier. And then somewhere along the line, I started really healing, doing deep healing of those childhood wounds and traumas that shaped my life, that affected my thinking. And in the early stages of that deep healing, I felt better. And it made sense that I felt better. My brain told me as I continued to heal and grow stronger in my sobriety, that I would just keep feeling better and better and better and better, that would stay on an upward slope. And while I knew nothing can, right, there's, it's like a jagged line on the upward slope. But what I didn't realize until very recently was the deeper our healing, the more work it is to get that deep healing. But that also translates into more work to make the changes happen that we want to take place in our life. So, do I recommend healing? Absolutely. Do I recommend sobriety? Fuck yes. Life is so much better when you're not held down by the constraints of addiction. And I don't care what your addiction is. It holds us down and it keeps us from reaching our highest potential, whatever that looks like. And it looks different for everybody. But it's work. It's hard work. Anything that's worthwhile is going to take effort, and it's going to take some stamina, and it's going to take some grit, determination. It's hard work. This morning, just today, I have just done some really big healing, something that I've been working on and working on. And, it's our wounds are like an onion, right? There's so many layers to the onion, and you get down to the core of it. And there's big work there, and there's big adjustments there. And just this morning, I'm thinking, why do I still feel so down? And then I got this messaging that, honey, because you're trying to work on the wrong thing. I'm still trying to work on the wounding that I've already done all the work on. I've done the work. I've gone through the healing. And I'm still trying to work on it. And that work's done. The hard work. Now, what I need to focus on is implementing those changes that change the way I think, ultimately change the way I feel, change my behaviors, and not reaching back into my brain for that adopted thinking, that fantasy thinking that ran parallel to my wounding, that kept me in a state of dis-ease. So that was really important for me, that I'm working on the wrong thing and I don't need to work on that. I've done that work. But now the really hard work comes, because now I get to shape what I'm going to do almost on a moment by moment basis. I get to do that. I get to do that for myself. And it doesn't hinge on anybody out here. It doesn't hinge on my husband. It doesn't hinge on my extended family. It doesn't hinge on my friends. It doesn't hinge on my business partner. It's all about me and what I want. And I don't know how many times in my life I've done that. Now I get to do that. I get to do that. I get to reap the benefit of all the work I've done on all the healing, all the trauma, all the bullshit. And I really was under a false impression that when I got to this level of healing, that everything was just going to fall into place, that it was just all going to be natural. And I wasn't even sad when I realized that now the work begins, because now I get to really be an active participant in my life. I get to call the shots. I get to decide how I want to feel, what I want to do, how I want to treat myself, how I want to treat others. And somebody out there is saying, well, you always had that. You always have that decision. It's always up to us. But is it? When we run our lives on our wounding and our traumas and our adopted thinking that is so not based in reality, is it really us making the choice? Or is it the wounding making the choice? Is it the addiction making the choice? My alcoholism, I tell you what, my alcoholism made a lot of choices for me. Were they good choices? Not most of them, no. Most of them were very self-serving. That also means sometimes they were very self-destructing, because in my addiction, I had such low self-esteem. You wouldn't know that by the way I acted, because I overcompensated so much. That's what we do as humans. But it really wasn't my choice. It was the choice of my addiction. It was the choice of my circumstance. It was the choice of my wounding. Now, I have finally come to a place where I can make choices based on me, based on what I want and how I feel, how I truly feel. Because my brain can say one thing and my body says another thing. So I have to look, okay, does that match? Do they coincide with how I feel and how I'm thinking? And a lot of times they don't. A lot of times I have to go with how I feel. and not how I think. And I've learned to trust my feelings. My feelings are almost always more connected to spirit and the spiritual messaging than is my actual brain. So now I get to choose. And I have some really challenging changes that I want to make in life. One of them being how I treat myself. None of us are getting any younger. None of us are. And now that I'm over 60, I'm like, why did I wait so long to get myself into shape? I used to be relatively strong. I'm losing my strength. And I realized, because I don't have I don't have good core strength. I've never had good core strength, but I've been strong. And without that core strength, I can't carry the rest of the strength. It's disappearing. So I'm really finding myself needing to start at a very basic level of fitness to begin to really take care of my physical body, my body Deva, who has been screaming at me for years, begging me for years to make some changes and to really take care of herself. And I've not done it. I've ignored her. Partly because I was so intent on this part of my thinking and my wounding and trying to get my needs met in a way outside of what I really needed. So my really difficult changes now are how I treat myself. And I started that almost 14 years ago when I stopped drinking. And I've been working towards today with all the healing. Now I get to start building strength and resilience, more resilience within my physical body. I get to make the choices of feeding her more nutritionally, being more concerned about what I actually intake into my body, which until this very moment seemed like a really daunting task. But now, as I'm talking about it and really understanding the whys and the what fors, I'm actually looking forward to this journey of self-health. Yeah, because I've done so much work on the internal part, the healing portion of the emotions and the thought processes. And now I get to really work on me. And it feels really good. And it's gonna be hard. Gonna be really hard. But like I said, anything worthwhile is hard. It's gonna take work. I need to be an active participant in my life, though. I'm so tired of letting my wounding, my disease, I'm tired of letting that dictate my behaviors and my feelings. So I've done the work, I've done the healing, and now I get to move on. And the real work begins, the real work in building. I've done all the work of letting go, and now I get to build from the bottom. What I find really interesting is as a teacher, a mentor, a healer, Spirit has brought me the messaging that this is something to incorporate into teaching people as they heal. You don't have to do it in chunks like I've done it. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait until you're sick and tired of being sick and tired of the healing to start being an active participant of rebuilding yourself. That rebuilding process can start really, really quickly in that self-love journey. Because that's what life is. Life is a journey of finding our worth and a way to love ourselves to fill the hole that happens within us. Because that hole can't be filled from anything out here. All those family members, all those friends, all those bottles of brandy, all those bongs, all those needles, it can't fill us up. The stores, the pornography, the sex, none of it fills us. And when we can start to discover, number one, that we are so much worth more than our addictions. We're not our addiction. We're not our wounding. We're not. We are a byproduct of it. And it is part of who we are, but it's not who we are. Not at all. And when we come to the realization that I'm worth more, I'm worth the effort of getting myself outside of whatever the addiction is and getting myself into recovery, even if that recovery is recovering from life itself, getting into recovery, discovering what it is that our wounding is. What are those adopted thoughts that have us kind of wrapped up in ourselves, I guess would be a way to say it. Adopted thinking that keeps us in a fantasy, that keeps us not living in truth. When we think that we are not worthy of something, that's because of an adopted thought. We took on that thought from somewhere, from someone. It's not based in reality because everybody is worth anything. So discovering and uncovering who we are, what our wounding is, how it dictates our life, and what that adopted thinking is, and then finding a way of healing through that. And whether that's talk therapy, multidimensional energy healing, whether that's self-help, a combination of everything is really, in my opinion, the best, because there is no one single modality that is going to fit every single person. And finding out which modality of healing is best for you and in which order. For me, it was actually, yes, it was getting sober. It was talk therapy. And then it was spirit. It was the multidimensional energy healing and developing a relationship with spirit. Accepting that I am part of spirit, that we all are part of that universal energy, that vibration that is love, unconditional love and compassion and peace, joy. We are part of that, and we forget that as humans. So, didn't mean to go on a little preachy thing there, but whatever the modality of healing is and in what order it comes really isn't important. It's that you're pursuing healing and you're being an active participant in the healing. And as you heal, you start rebuilding. Because I thought the healing process was building, and it really isn't. It really isn't. There is so much work that we get to do to shape our human life in accordance to what our soul needs and wants, what we contracted in this life to learn and to achieve. The more work we actually put into it, the more thought processes we put into it, and the more active we are in building all of us up. The longer we have to live in peace. Spirit had brought me the term peace and neutral years ago. Right? Yeah, it's been years now. Peace and neutral. And that keeps coming up for me over and over. Recently, it's come up a lot for me, peace and neutral. And what does it really mean? And at first, it meant not having expectations. Peace and neutral meant just going in open with no expectations of myself, of the situation, of another person. Okay. And have I mastered that? Hell no. Am I better at it? A lot better at it. I am a lot better at. Okay. I was going to say I'm a lot better at not having expectations, which I am. But what I'm really a lot better at is realizing, oh, I have an expectation around this. I need to look at it and I need to either let it go or scale it back or change it. Ultimately, let it go, because expectations are just an invitation for a headache, at least for me. I think for everybody, expectations are so overrated. Sorry, I got off track. I forgot what I was saying. Peace and neutral. No expectations. And then as I maneuvered through that, peace and neutral got brought back. But it's like, I don't have expectations around this. Why are you bringing me peace and neutral again? Peace and neutral now for me is that in-between space of anger and exhilaration. There's a lot of space in between angry and exhilarated. And at one point, I was such a black and white thinker that I thought I either was angry or I was happy. And happy meant that I felt joyous and that I was full of energy and that everything was working the way it's supposed to. That it was a stark contrast to anger. And if I didn't feel anger and I didn't feel this exhilaration or whatever you want to call that stupid thing that doesn't even belong up there. If I felt somewhere in between, I had to be angry. It had to be a low vibration. I had to be unhappy. I had to be unworthy and definitely unwilling. And I went through this period, and this was not too long ago. I went through this period of like such an internal battle. I'm not angry, but you're not feeling this really high vibrational thing, so you have to be angry. And so I would start acting that way. And spirit tried, man, I don't even remember how spirit got through to me, but it finally did dawn on me. Wait a minute. Neutral. Neutral means I don't have to feel anything. And if I do feel, it doesn't have to be extreme. I don't have to have extreme emotions. I don't have to have extreme reactions. I could just be neutral. I cannot have an opinion. I can not have a feeling. It's okay to just be and allow whatever's happening around me to happen. And I don't have to have a second thought about it. I don't have to have an opinion. I don't have to be in the middle of it. If it wasn't involving me, it's okay for me to just be. I don't have to feel one way or another about it. That's peace and neutral for me right now. One way to have peace and neutral, I should say. Another way to have peace and neutral is when it is all about me. Again, I don't have to have extremes. It's not one or the other. I don't know how to do that. One or the other. It doesn't have to be black and white. It's not black and white. Oh my God, Mari-Lyn, figure it out. I'm figuring it out. Peace and neutral means I can just feel. And if I'm just neutral, it doesn't mean I'm angry. It doesn't mean I have to act angry. I don't have to find something in between, or I don't have to find an extreme way to feel to match a non-feeling. It's okay to rest in not feeling extreme. It's okay to, okay, what I was going to say is it's okay to live in not an extreme feeling, which it is. It is very okay to live that way. I am, I am, I got so much water in me. I think I'm 2 water signs and a fire sign. Or it's air. I don't know. Anyway, I'm 2 water signs. I am so much emotion that I always thought how I felt I had to exude it. It had to be, wow. So what I'm just realizing is I didn't want anybody to see me so I wanted them to see my emotion. So I was very extreme in whatever I felt. It was extreme. Because if you could see my emotion, that was good enough. You wouldn't look any deeper, then you wouldn't have to see me. And I'm now giving myself permission to be seen and to be heard, because just like everybody, I have something worth saying. I have something worth sharing. Is it going to be for everybody? No, it can't be. But everybody, every person has something valuable to share for another person. And now I'm giving myself permission to do that. And I'm learning that the emotions don't have to be so extreme. And so it's okay to be neutral, to find peace in that neutrality. That's thank you, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to work that out. So, so deeply down to that core understanding of why my emotions were so extreme. It's because I didn't want you to see me. And now it's okay. Now it's okay to be seen and to be heard and to share the message. Um, and it's quite simply, my message is one of love and of healing, of spirit, of sobriety, but recovery. Sobriety, in and of its word, I think means from alcohol, sober, not drunk. But that recovery piece, even if that recovery piece is really important. I want to say something about alcoholism or addiction. I am an alcoholic. Had I chosen to never drink in my life, I would still be alcoholic. Because if at any point I ever started drinking, it would take over. It just would. It would take over. But had I not been an active alcoholic, there is still a very good likelihood that my behaviors would have been that of an alcoholic. My behaviors would have still been the same because my wounding was still there. So the recovery piece is for everybody. We all have wounding, we all have trauma. I mean, that's part of growing into adulthood. We are traumatized as children because the people around us when we're growing up, they haven't healed. They're doing the best they can, but it's through their wounding. And we have all this new exposure to all that being human has to offer, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So that wounding that happens when we're children happens regardless of rich, poor, big family, little family, no family. Everybody experiences wounding and trauma doesn't, you've heard us talk about it before, trauma doesn't have to be something gruesome, something violent. It's just something that traumatizes us, and it can be something that seems very insignificant, but in reality, it was very, very huge trauma. But that recovery piece is for all of that. My recovery is not just around not drinking. No, it's got to go deeper and deeper, and it goes all the way back into the entirety of my life, recovering from everything. And then I get to live in recovery, which means not drinking, which means not engaging in the old adopted thinking that I've healed from. It means building a new way of behaving so I don't have to behave the way that I used to behave. And it's a beautiful blessing. It really is, even though it is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Hard work. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's not hard. Sometimes it's really simple. Sometimes it's really easy. Sometimes it's really simple and you can see it and you understand it and you're like, how the fuck do I do that now? But it comes through the healing, through working, through self-love and through doing the work of building yourself. You building you into who you are at your highest potential. And that changes every day. My highest potential yesterday is different than my highest potential tomorrow. My highest potential today is different than yesterday. Absolutely. My potential today is so much higher. Tomorrow, I don't know, maybe it's going to be a little less. I don't know. Can't predict the future, so I'll have to wait till tomorrow to see. But I am so beyond grateful that I am at a place where I realize I get to start building me. So I really hope something I've said in here resonated for you, whether it was around healing or recovery. It doesn't matter. I just wish for the world that we could all find recovery from life so we can live a more fulfilled life in a higher vibration, in more self-love, in more self-compassion, which in and of itself turns into love and compassion for others. I have lived through trying to be compassionate with another person while having self-loathing. And I tell you what, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You cannot give away what you don't have. And if you don't have self-compassion, what you think is compassion, it's most likely trauma bonding. It's narcissism. It's codependency. I guess I don't really need to put a label on it. But if you don't have self-love and self-compassion, it's really difficult to truly and honestly give that to other people. I would love to know if you have a different thought on that. I can hear somebody who is a mother who has not very high regard for herself, and yet she loves her children. Clearly, she loves her children more than she loves herself. Even for you, because if you don't love yourself, your children see that. Lived through it. I know it. It's true. And I urge you to take some of that love that you feel for your child. That child is a piece of you. Turn that inward and let that grow into more self-love. And that more self-love grows into more love for your child. And I'm sure there's other people out there that are going, yeah, whatever, Mari-Lyn, blah, 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 blah. Let me know if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, leave your comments. If you are interested in any of the healing services, you can find me and my partner Pam at tcseveryday.psychics.com. And if you are listening to us, wherever you stream your podcasts, I am so grateful that you tuned in today. And I'm going to say goodbye. I wish you all well, and I'll see you later. Take care. Bye.